Today, as you see, we have a special session, and the dedication I would like to have, it's in memory of a great sage, great rabbi, Maharam Shapiro, that today it's his yahrzeit. 80 years for these great men. So just a vignette. At one point, he's the founder, the inventor of the Daf Yomi, studying a Talmudic page a day. His name is Yehuda Meir ben Yaakov Shimshon Shapiro. 8 years ago he passed, but because of him the Babylon Talmud, the Talmud Bavli, spread around the world, and we are part of a large group of people that study every single day. So at least we dedicate for his memory, for his zchut, the shiur today. We are in Daf Kuf Yud Gimel, page 113, second line from the top of the page. The subject today covers so many inyanim. The Daf covers so many hanagot tovot, so many points of proper behavior. We start with the first one, 2 lines from the top of the page. אמר לי רב לרב אסי, לא תדור במטה דלא צניף בה סוסיה ולא נבח בה כלבה. Simply speaking, he asked him, his disciple, his student, not to live in the city that there is no horses and there is no dogs. So we can take it in 2 different avenues. One way is the literal understanding, that it's a part of Hatzalah, save, rescue, shmirah, guardian. So if it's a thieves or robbery, so you have the dog. Guess what happened if someone tried to get in David's house? So Cyrus was going to bite him, right? His dog. So the idea is that Rashbam tells us that the dog, by barking, creates some type of atmosphere of fearness, and they run away. The Ben Yoyada said, in regards to the horses, he said that those ancient villages, they constantly under attack, and those thieves that come and run away quickly, they're afraid of horses, because when they hear the horse, most probably someone is riding those horses and they can persecute them. So that's basically the simple way of understanding this statement. The Maharal, Rabbi Yehuda Levi of Prague, he goes to a little mystical part. Since we discussed yesterday the point of horses from the book of Zechariah, and we talk about some type of mystical entities, as well as dogs. We discuss the time of leaving Egypt, that wasn't dog that barking, etc. So it's all some type of heaven protection, heavenly entities that protected them. But we go just in the pshat, like we're doing always, just the literal understanding. Ve'al tadu be'ir derei shmata Asya. Should not live in a city where now in our city have a big election. You know, yesterday we have so many people that heard the debate. So if the head of the city is a medical doctor, so he's busy, simply speaking, he's busy with his medical practicing and everything, and his mind is not so much with the civil administration of the city. There are other avenues. The rabbi said it can be the other way around, that he's so busy with the civil administration, so he will not take care of his patient properly. So that's again the simple way of understanding it. Ve'lo tinsiv tartei, and you should not marry 2 wives. Remember, that's the Talmudic time. That was a different decorum of society. So they said, the point is, the rabbi said that they can gather together clandestinely against you in a sav tarte, in a sav tlat. If you made your mind to marry 2, you should marry 3. So the rabbi said that in that case, if there's any deal behind your back, the third one will inform you in advance, so you'll be safe. I see I see faces, so it's okay to have all different reaction to that. It's just part of the Talmudic text. אמר לרב כהנא, הפוך בנבלתה ולא תהפוך במילי. So, simply speaking, be careful of what you're saying. You can go either by saying that that's apply not to cheat in any form when it's come to a business deal, or if you promise something, you should not back off. You should follow always the way that you promise. But there are others said that, well, like you said in Yiddish, misach meloches, if someone have too many different professions, it's a problem. But if you go in a simple way, it's like a shadchan, was like a journalist. So imagine if you function as a journalist. The journalist involved many times with lashon hara, with evil gossip, with chilut, etc. So he said, better to do even hafoch ben nevela, involving with a nevela, and not in words. Pshot nevilta beshuka ushkil agra, meaning you should be very scrupulous. You work hard when you're doing your work. Even it's made, Rashbam said, in public in front of everyone. If you need to make a living, do it as long as it's with honesty. It's no embarrassment even to do a simple work. Velotema, listen carefully. Kahana ana veGemarrah ana vesanya beMilta. You should not feel, oh, I'm such a dignitary, I'm a Kohen, I'm an important person, I have all kind of degrees, honorable person. How can I do this job that it's for, you know, for other people, for simple people? So you may say, look, a Torah scholar, it's a Torah scholar. It's like the rabbi said that Torah scholar should not go. You remember we studied in Shabbat 114. The scholar should not go while there's some revav, some stain, something like that on his jacket. But when it's come to Yegia kapecha ki tochel ashrecha v'tov lach, if you're walking in the labor of your hand, that's praiseworthy. The Rambam said in Ilchot Matnot Aniyim, chapter 10, the person should even press himself to do all kind of jobs and not depend upon people. And furthermore, it's a big machloket between the Rambams and other. How should we treat, in that sense, Talmidei Chachamim? The Rambam has an attitude that they should not get any payment for teaching Torah, for leading yeshivot, leading kollelim, etc. Everyone else. You see it in Rav Shira Gaon, you see it in the Shach and the Bach and many other that opposed it. And they said that in our days, in order to avoid shetishtachach Torah miYisrael, that the Torah, God forbid, should not be forgotten, therefore it is proper to get paid for that. The late Rav Moshe Feinstein in the book Igrot Moshe, in the Yoredea, the second chelek, he said clearly that it's the advice of the aaral, of the evil inclination, not to get paid as a teacher, Torah scholar, or student in a kollel, etc. But he said, Salak le'igra sherutach bahadach, which means when you go on your journey, you'll take your food with you. In other words, don't leave your home without taking something with you. So I assume that in our days and times, we understand, especially in our circumstance, that you have very limited kosher places, So, but he talk in general that a person should live with something. Me'a kari b'mata bezuza turtei knafaich nehevu. So he said, even the price cost of your city is cheap. That especially in those days they have the food, the dlat, was sold in the 100 zuz. So you should not depend upon others. You should go and take it. So there is another avenue that speak about ayn hara, an evil inclination, that other people look upon you. So in other words, if you see a good business like mea gluin in one zuz, hide it under your garment, so others will not be jealous of you and not give you an evil eye. That's the way the Aruch see it. Now Rav Chia gives a few directions to his son. Amar le Rav Chia brei, Rav der Chia brei. Rav said to his son Chia, Lo tishtei sama. So I think in our generation it will be much easier to explain. The Rashbam said that when you need to take medication, drugs, so be careful, because many times the health professionals will say to you that it's not an addicted, but he said it's not always correct. He said that sometimes go the other way. The Rashi tells us that it's always a side effect. You take a drug, you take antibiotic, you take medications, but many times it's affected the other part of the body in the other way. So in other words, it's mo'il ledavar echad, it's good for one thing, and mazik ledavar acher, and it's dangerous to something else. So I can share with you a personal experiences after my accident. So as you know, I'm sometimes a little bit adamant or obstinate. So the doctor prescribed for me what is called, Yosef, remember that, what is oxycodone or something like that, very high level. Now I decided I'm not taking any medication, but that was very complicated tibia surgery that put together a lot of pieces. It was screws and pin and it's a long story. So for 3 days I was like in a huge agony. It was excruciating pain, but I refused to take medication. My oldest daughter eventually, after 3 days, convinced me to take something. The reason I refused it, it's because of this, that it's have the side effect that can affect you the other way around. Anyway, so there is a pasuk that the rabbis tells us, the Ktav Sofer Brodet said, Yishlach dvaro v'yirpa'em v'yimalet mishchitotam, which means that Hashem help us when He brings those healing, those medications that should not have a side effect that attack other part of our body while they're helping somehow the other way. Velo tishvar nigra. Don't jump in order to save time. You jump at the top of a water stream. So the Rashbam said that the fear is that maybe he'll just slip and fall them, and it's dangerous. Or there's another way that, like Rabbeinu Chanan said, you should not live in the place in the roof in a high level, because it's reduced the body capability. Again, there are many avenues. Velo te'ekar kacha, when you have a teeth issues, so be careful not to take out those teeth that you need, because eventually it will heal and then you need that teeth. Velo tikane bechivya, don't start up with a snake because it can attack you. Velo tikane be'arama, be careful with Armenian not to start up with because it's too dangerous. Now it's a fascinating Gemarrah. Listen carefully. Tanu Rabbanan, Shlosha en mitkanim bahem. The sages said that there are three beings one should not provoke. Don't start up with them. ואלו הן נוכרי קטן, ונחש קטן, ותלמיד קטן. So it means that you should not start up with a young, for the best translation is a young idolater, and young small snake, and a young student. My time, what's the reason? So they said, the malchutayu acharei udnai hukayim. So they are, simply speaking, because their authority stands behind the ears. So it means that they will eventually grow up, assume power, and each in his own way pay back, and pay back hard time. So several points I would like to share with you here. First, in my book, Birak Lomar Berashi al Hashas, I refer to this Rashi because he used here the Klomar, Atidin legadel utgadel lematan v'imkemu becha. So Rashi tells us here, and I elaborate in my book, that those that you considering now small, you never know how it turn around. I know a story when I was in service that it was an officer who in charge for certain people to do certain things, and it was a reserve unit. So you have the option in that headquarters to send certain people to certain tasks. So I noticed that he sent someone who's relatively old in age to a very far away, close to the border of Lebanon, and is in dangerous places, etc., and constantly. So one time I asked him, and to my surprise he was honest, and he said that he was his teacher about, whatever, 10 years earlier, and he has some issues, and he's paying him back. Very hard to comprehend. I tried to convince him to stop it, but the key is, there is sometimes a concept of you consider them as small, you don't bother, you don't bother to think that what's the consequences, and then can turn around. And it's a famous Yerushalmi at the end of chapter 8 in Tractate Talmud about a fellow in Tiberias, a Roman, by the name of Decalietnus, that he was a young man as a shepherd, and they hit him, etc., etc., and later on he became a Caesar, and he tried to pay back, and it was a big miracle, and they are saved. But eventually he taught those sages of Tiberias that you should be careful. You think that they are small, but you never know how it will turn in the future. אמר לרב לאייבו ברי, תרחי בך בשמעתה ולה מסתייע מילתה. So he was a fellow that one of the students, and he said, I tried to study so hard, and now it's a time I have to go and make some business. So he said, all right, he decided to leave and go to the business world. תאגמרח מילדי עלמא. Let me teach you the path of business. So he starts as follows. Adhalla akar'aich. Zvina zabim. Literally speaking, he says, when you have the sand, the little sand around you, around your feet, so sell your products. So Rashbam said, what's the manner of usual business people? They're buying something, they wait a little bit, then they wait that the market change, the value change, and then they sell it. So he said, be careful with that. He says, if something that you feel that make even a small profit margin, go ahead. Kol mile zaben v'teicharet, bar mechamra lezaben v'lo titcharet. So anything you can sell, and then you feel bad that you are so impetuous and you run fast, excluding wine. So we all understand what happened with wine. No? Elliot, what happened with wine? If you sell it earlier, the oldest the wine, the better, right? So the idea here that sometimes you do it quickly and it's good, but wine, you have to be very circumspect. You have to be cautious, because that's the way Rashbam and Rashi said in En Yaakov. They said it can change. Shrei kisach ptach sakich. So again, I'm referring to my explanation in my book. So Rashi said here, כלומר, שרי כיסח ופתח סכך, כלומר תקבל תחילה המעות ותנן בכיסך, ואחר כך פתח השק ותן התבואה ללוקחים. So that's beautiful. So Rashi tells us here what happened in the business world. Sometimes you're selling a product, you give the fellow the product. So he said, and then when it's come to payment, it's a different story. So sometimes you end up by losing both, losing the money and losing the product. He said, first you open your wallet and put in the money you get from the buyer. And then you open your pocket and give it to the buyer. To tell us that it's not literally open your baskets. It's advice in the business world. Kaba me'ar'a velo kora me'igra. Again, we have here klomar in Rashi. Rashi tells us that it's טוב, כלומר, טוב ללך למקום קרוב ולהסתכר ממנו, מלהסתכר הרבה ממדינות הים. So he said that's basically on the Maharsha, he wrote here in the Rambam, Ilchot Deot. The key is that you can have less income, but it's close to your home, and it's convenience. Rather to go and travel far away, like some people, you know, traveling constantly to China, etc. You're traveling far away to make a living. So the other way, it's better to have in your hand the bird in your hand and the bird on a tree, right? So that's another way. Tamra b'haluzach levet sudana rehit. He says, if there are dates in your storeroom, run to beware to sell them. Why? Because if you wait, what happened? Either you eat it with your family, and then you can have diarrhea, and you can lose. You right away make it sheikhar ve'ad kama. How far? Marava atlas. So he said you can do it. If you wait, there is a good chance that the date will go back. So how many days should one keep for himself? He said up to 3 se'ah. So the Chazon Ish said that all of this discussion is ben adam lachavero. It's apply also the deep message. It's more than just a little advice. It's all kind of interaction between people. Here is an example. Amar Rav Papa, Ilo dirmai shichra lo atri. If I did not involve with beer manufacturer, I'll not have become wealthy. So the Gemarrah said in Baba Metzia 65 that he was very wealthy. So he said it's because he married descendants of Aharon HaKohen, and because of that, and because other reasons that he became as he became. Amar Rav Chizda ilo dirmai shichra lo iatri. So if I am not involved with the beer manufacturer, I will not become wealthy. So they said, "My Sudana." What's the source? Amar Rav Chizda sod naeg milut chasadim. So there are several avenues. We have here Tosfot that said, even a person involved in a beer business, if, as you know, the Gemarrah in Beitzah tells us that everything is destined from heaven. So if he's a lo yutzlach, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen regardless. But if he paved the way for certain opportunities, is a chance to. So he said the secret is loving kindness, doing a lot of a pleasant secret, an act of loving kindness as brewing is a good way to make money and also enable one to perform a good deed. So that's what the Rashbam said, that that's the word chasadim, samech dalet, it's with hinted with the word sudana. Rabbi Yehuda said that he has a special formula of making this type of date beer, and he make it in such a way, because usually have a health issue when they use it, but he made it such a way that it wasn't just not a damaged beer, but it was actually a healthy one. So because it was a healthy one, and people enjoy the taste, it sold much more. So in a sense, because it's Gemilut Chasadim, because people who drink it get healthier, so that's the source. But you should see it in the Tractate Shabbat, page 140. Now another advice when we come to business. Amar Rav Papa, kol agav, anything you need to write on a contract. For example, you have an agreement between two parties, a loan agreement, selling something, giving down payment, etc. So he said, all of that, gav yabai ashray, gav yabai, which means, don't think, Rashi here used the word klomar, כל דבר שצריך לכתוב שער עליו. Anything, klomar עדיין הוא גבוהות ואין טורח בו. So it doesn't mean that by writing a contract, it's over. Rashi used here the word klomar to tell us that from the time that you're writing the contract until you really have the collection of the money, sometimes it's go through a lot of aggravation, right? So that's part of the advice. Kol ashray, anything that was sold by credit, by verbal commitment, safek ate, safek lo ate. You are uncertain if you see the money. Udeate ma'ot ra'ot ninu, that even they get so much aggravation and so much, if they spread the payments, so it involved a lot of aggravation. That's the simple literal. Now we go other advice. שלושה דברים אמר רבי יוחנן משום אנשי ירושלים. 3 points Rabbi Yochanan said on behalf of people in the city of Yerushalayim. Number 1, כשאתה יוצא למלחמה, אל תצא בראשונה, אלא תצא באחרונה, כדי שאם תיכנס בראשונה. He said, when you go to war, so what happened usually? People go to war, nations go to war, army goes to war, people thinking usually what? We're going to win the war. But guess what? Can go other way around. Can be a big mess and people get killed, that will be, and can turn around and people need to run away for their lives. So think the other way around. Think how to use it, the language, simple language, worst case scenario. Devil advocate. So think what happened there. So in that sense, he suggested to go on the back. So they are much more dangerous, etc. But Ben Yehuda said that it's not literal, it's more spiritual, and it's applied to the how to fight the Yetzer Hara. Anyway, next, ועשה שבתך חול ואל תסתך לבריות. Remember the previous session we talked about it, about סעודה שלישית, if you remember. Tosfot asked that the Gemarrah said in בעיקר, page 16, that all the yearly budget of a person dedicated a year in advance, and everything is set up. What we said on the San Tokef, right? Mi ani, mi asher, who will be rich, who will be poor. So therefore, the Gemara said that's excluding expenses of Talmud Torah, expenses of Shabbat and holidays. So if that's the case, so what does that mean? You should make Shabbat like a day, and you should not need others. So we explain that there is another concept that's called Levu alai v'ani porea, that you should borrow, kiviyachol Hashem said, and I'll pay. So one avenue, the Tosfot said that it's based on Choshen Mishpat, Tzadik Zayin, that said that many times people borrow money while they're not so sure if they'll be able to pay the debt. And that's an issue, because basically follow the dry law, You cannot go and borrow money even from the regular finance institutions like banks when you don't have a collateral, or if you don't have the way to pay it back. So when it's come to money of someone else, you cannot depend upon this promise that the Shem will take care of that. So if you have the ability to sell something, that's different. But other than that, if you do Shabbatcha, if you do it for your own sake, so there is a problem. You should make it in a way that it's in your ability. ומשתדל עם מי שהשעה משחקת לו. You should do business with people, that's what we said in the previous session, that they are successful in business, and basically we talk about partnership. אמר רבי, או שלושה דברים אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי משום אנשי ירושלים. Three things Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said on behalf of the people living in the city of Yerushalayim. אל תרבה בגנות. Again, in my book, ביאורה כלומר בראשי, Rashi said here the word כלומר. So I explained, Rashi both, אל תהיה רגיל, כלומר תהיה רגיל לעשות בית בפרהסיה במקום המגולה. So there are several avenues here. One option, I just try to give you the abbreviation, I explain it at length in my book, but basically it's any act of ostentatious building is a problem. So that's one way. Another way is the gagot, not gnut, like gagot. Gagot meaning roof. That you should not do things on the roof. So what does that mean? So they said, Mishum Maaseh Shaya. I assume we all know the story of Uriah and David and Bathsheba, that it was in the roof and it's at the top of the roof, etc. So be careful. Number two, בביתך בגרה, שחרר עבדך ותן לה. If you have an old daughter, she is already old, so don't wait too long. When she grew up older, even you marry her with your previous servant, rather than to keep her single at your house. And then he said, וזהיר באשתך מחתנה ראשון. Be careful with your wife, with the first son-in-law. So Rashbam said not necessarily the first. Ma'itama the Gemarrah said, Rav Chizda amar mishum erva. Rav Chizda said that it's a suspicion of act of dismodesty, maybe because she likes him so much. Rav Khan amar mishum amon, that she spent too much money on him because she cared for him so much. The conclusion, ha veha itnu, that both of them it's applicable, that the possibility for both. So I saw in a book called Sefer HaTzava'ah, he brought there was a fellow who was a Jerusalem Shadchan, a matchmaker. So he said that big advice, he said, when you have a young daughter, she listens to you. When she grew up and she reached the age of maturity, etc., you should listen to her. That's what Maharil Steinman used to say, that it's always turn around and should not wait too much. What happened with Shidduchim, they start thinking, this one is not good, this one is not good, and then time passes by and missing opportunities. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, since we used the term three before, here's again, Shlosha min ochalei ha'olam haba. There are three that receive a portion in Olam Haba, in the world to come. Eilu hen, here are they. Number one, Hadar be'eretz Yisrael. One who live in the land of Israel. So, The Gemarrah said in Ketubot, page 111, and my late father-in-law always referred to that Gemarrah. So they said, and I wrote in my book about that Gemarrah, in Tractate Ketubot, they said in the book of Yeshayahu, chapter 33, Ha'am ha'yoshev ba nesui avon. So therefore, just by Yeshivat Eretz Yisrael, dwelling in Eretz Yisrael, the way the Ramban tells us, by itself it's a mitzvah. But the Pnei Yoshua tells us over there in Ketubot that it's not exactly correct to think that just by being there, it's the end of the story. Because let's face it, to live there and to commit all kind of terrible sins, it's not, this statement is not applicable. So the rabbis tells us that it's basically like you have a key for a treasure. So the key for a treasure is you live in Eretz Yisrael, but for sure, the next condition is to follow the path of Torah and mitzvot. Number 2, והמגדל בניו לתלמוד תורה. If someone raises his children for Talmud Torah. Number 3, והמבדיל על היין במוצאי שבתות. And someone who's make Havdalah, recite Havdalah over the wine at the conclusion of Shabbat. So the Gemara asks, Maihi. So what does that mean if someone made Havdalah and the wine make opportunity to be in the world to come? Dimshayar mikdusha lehavdalta. So he was careful. He have a small measure of wine. So the Rashbam said that he make sure he left some that will be able to do Havdalah as well. So therefore he have a brain. He's thinking about the next step. So it's have for both. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, שלושה מכריז עלינו הקדוש ברוך הוא בכל יום. We use again the number 3. That Hashem announced every single day over 3 holy people, 3 kind of people every day. Exceptional and not very special individual. Number 1. על רווק הגר בכרך ואינו חוטא. You have a single person who live in a city. So the rabbi, the Ben Yehuda, said that what happened living in a big city, you have all these women that dress with all kind of ostentatious, tawdry, gorgeous, beautiful dress, etc., and wealthy, etc. And this single person who live there, he can fall to the sin. So if he pass without falling to those sins, it's in our language, it's like God announced on him that he is a pious man. Number 2, ועני המחזיר אבדה לבעליה, indigent that returned the loss to its owner. Number 3, ועל עשיר המעשר פירותיו בצנעה. But also the third one is for a wealthy person, that he bring a tithe in the hidden way, which means one of the tests for a rich person is that you have your name on the building, you have the name announced, and if you do it in a hidden way without getting all the honor, even it's cost you a lot of money, so that's one of the things that applies. So I need to just, with your permission, just give you some additional point to that. Number 1, the Meiri said, when you use the word ravak, you think it's just a single, but the Meiri said it's not necessarily single. Anybody who is in a category of single can be a divorce or widower, or it's not just a single, never married. But he said also there's 3 different types of lust or desire that people have. The desire of a body, the desire of money, and desire of the honor. So he said, one who's single, living in those city, and he overcome this evil inclination, he basically subjugated his body desire. A poor, indigent person that returned a lost, imagine a person is desperate for fun, and he found money with a pocket, with a purse, and he see the name, and he go to the person and return that. He overcome this huge desire for money. And he may say, oh, look, I'm indigent, I need the money, but no, he followed the Torah instruction and returned it. And the same applied to a rich person, that sometimes he do a mitzvah that it create a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty, and he does that in a quiet way without looking for the honor. So so that's carry a special recognition. Story: Rav Safra Ravak Hadar Bichra Chava. Rav Safra was one of those single that live in the krach, was a bachelor and lived in a city. So Kufyud Gimel Amud Bet Tani Tana Kameh de Rabba veRav Safra. So it was a sage that teach Baraitot, and he taught it before Rabba and Rav Safra. Tzahavu panav shel Rav Safra. Rav Safra was very happy for the great merit he had for that. Amar lo Rava said in that manner that of a bachelor that lived, Lav kegon ma'ad, they don't talk about you because you are all day in a Beit HaMidrash, so it's not talking about bachelor like you. Ela kegon Rav Chanina veRav Ushaya דאבו הושקף ובערד ישראל, ואבו יד ובשוק הדזונות, ועבדלו מסן אל הזונות ואייל אלהו. So these great sages, Rav Chanina and Rav Ushaya, they are basically a shoemaker, but they live in an area of the prostitution. So they used to do it for them, they used to do shoes for them. So he said, Im hi misakte be'yahu, v'inu lo madlan lo istaku lebe'u. So they have to make a living, so what they do? So they bring the shoes to them. So it turns that those harlots, how they make the size of the shoes? They need to check the legs, they need to measure it. So this, they didn't look at the faces, you just measure the leg and the shoes, most probably that's the only way they make a living. But they didn't look at them. So this prostitute used to make an oath, B'chayehem Rabbanan Kadisha Debar Israel. So they said that it's like making an oath that whenever saw a man behave like that, it's like expression of greatness of those rabbis. So he said that's what referred to when they said that they overcome their evil inclination. Shlosha Kadosh Baruch Hu Avan. We still dealing with number 3. 3, Hashem love. Mi she'eno koes, someone who's not getting angry. So as the Chazon Ish said, it's all relationship between man and his fellow. But it's like what the Mishnah said, wherever the spirit of people is good with him, the spirit of Hashem is good with him. So someone who's not getting angry quickly. Umi she'eno mishtaker, someone who's not getting drunk. Umi she'eno ma'amid al midotav. So someone who's not thinking all day long, how should I take revenge, how should I pay back for someone who did something wrong to me. So he just let it go, and that's one of those that Hashem loved. The other way, Shlosha Kadosh Baruch Hu Son'an, the 3 God despise. So for sure this is anthropomorphic way, this is the human language that he speaks. Hamdaber echad b'peh ve'echad b'lev, that's what the Rambam said in L'chot De'ot, that the person is a hypocrite or phony, he said one thing in his mouth and another thing in his heart. Vayodea edut b'chavero ve'eno me'id lo. So a person is in a crisis, in a bet din, in a process, and he needs to go and testify, and he doesn't bother to do it. So, or he have a chance to help and he didn't. So he said, v'aro'ed v'areva b'chavero me'id bo yechidi. So one of the things that we have to do is to have 2 people when you give a word of admonition. So usually you should do it individually. So here they said even that something that it's a public and well wittingly knowledge by everyone. So that's, and he withhold it. Example, Kiha, the Tuvia Chata, was a fellow that committed the sin in regards to modesty. Ve'ata Zigud lechode v'as be'kamei de Rav Papa. So Zigud came by himself and he gave a testimony in the Bet Din of Rav Papa. Instead of punished this fellow Tuvia. Nakdei le Zigud. Rav Papa gave Malko to Zigud. Amar le Tuvia Chata ve'Zigud min Gad. What's going on? He committed the sin and I deserve malkot. אמר לי, אין. Why? דכתיב, לא יקום עד אחד באיש. The Torah said in דברים, Deuteronomy 19, that ואת לכודך סהדת בי. You go by yourself. And the Torah said it should not be by yourself. You have to come with the two. Shem Rabbi Alma kamapkat בי. You just bring a defamation of character for him, and it's like you're in violation of what the Torah said. You should not carry a gossip, like in the book of בעיקר, chapter 19. So therefore, that's the reason you reserved malkot. אמר רבי שמואל בר יצחק אמר רב, מותר לשנותו. If you see someone who's doing something bad to his fellow, you're allowed to despise him. שנאמר, the Torah said in Shmot, in the book of Exodus, chapter 23, כי תראה חמור שונאך רובץ תחת מסכו. You see someone you don't like, you see his donkey is under the loaded, my soneh. What does that mean, that someone you don't like? אילי מה שונא נוכרי. מתי השונא שאמרו שונא מישראל ולא שונא נוכרי? It's a fellow Jew. אלא פשיטא שונא ישראל. So any type of cause animal soil is forbidden from the Torah. So you have to help him. But here is the point that they don't feel that Tzar Baalei Chaim is the Oraita, but the Rabbanan. That's the way the Gra understand in Choshen Mishpat, chapter 272. So he said, "Umi sharia lesmisani." We allowed to hate a fellow Jew. V'aktiv lo tisnai et achicha b'levavecha. Torah said to us in Vaikra 19, you should not hate your fellow in your heart. Ela deika sahade v'avid isura, that you have these witnesses that he did something wrong, so you can hate him because of doing something wrong. Kule almana memisnesani lei. So everyone may allow to hate him because of that. Maishna hai. Why this person is different? Elav ki agavna dechaze be'iu erva. It's only him saw him doing something like that. So that applies specifically to him. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak amar mitzvah lesnoto. It's a mitzvah to do it. Mishene'emar, that they said in Proverbs chapter 8, Yirat Hashem snot ra. That part of that hate, but not, the rabbis tells us that those four and others, that it's not hating the person, hating some part of himself that needs to do it to shuvah. That's the point. אמר רב אחא ברי דרבא לרב אשי, מהו לממרא לרבי למיסנאי? So he can go and report to his Rebbe, so he can, like the story of Joseph and his brothers. אמר לי, אי ידע דממן לרבי כבית רעי, if he knew that he is trustworthy by his Rebbe, that is like he heard it from two Leimalei. ואילו, otherwise, and the Chafetz Chaim said that that's the only condition that you're allowed to do. לא Leimalei, otherwise you shouldn't say it. So they said Tanu Rabbanan. Shlosha, we continue number 3. Shlosha chayim enam chayim. The 3 people have no life. Harachmanim, people who are too compassionate. Ve'aratchanim, people who gets very angry easily. Ve'aninei hadat, people who are very fastidious. Ve'amar Rav Yosef, kulu itnau bi. I have all this. So Rav Yosef was blind. So he felt the difficulty with that. A person who see what is damaged, it's easy on him, but if you don't see it, then it's much painful. Tanu Rabbanan, שלושה שונאים זה זה. There are 3 that hate each other. ואלו הם כלבים והתרנגולים והחברים. There's the 3 groups or hates other members of the same group: dogs, roosters, and the Persian priests. ויש אומרים אף הזונות. There are some say also prostitutes. So there are two explanations. Either that they apparently they are nice to each other, but in their hearts they hate, either because of their body or because the other rabbis said that they hate because they're money, they're jealous of each other. ויש אומרים אף תלמידי חכמים שבבבל. So there are those who say that it's applied to scholar in Babylonia. So the Maharal explained in Tivot Olam, in Tiva Torah, he said that it doesn't mean that the Talmidei Chachamim, they hate each other. He said that it means that the way that they attack each other, it's appear like that. like you go to a Beit HaMidrash, you hear sometimes they're screaming at each other, but it doesn't mean, language is hate, it's just ritcha deoraita. תנו רבנן שלושה אוהבים זה את זה. The three groups love each other. ואלו הן הגרים, the convert, והעבדים, the servants, ואורבים, and the ravens. So the rabbi said that they don't have a self-arrogance, and because they feel humble, so they don't feel threat of someone else from their group. ארבעה אין הדעת סובלתן. There are four that you cannot. It's very hard to tolerate. ואלו הן דל גאה. Someone who's poor but he's arrogant. You know people like that. It's very difficult. ועשיר מכחש. Someone who's rich and he is not truthful in the money that belong to deny monetary claims against him. וזקן מנאף, and adulterer, elderly adulterer. So basically the rabbi said that rich, they have the taste of being arrogant. Poor, it's for money that belongs to others. Old, he already old, so why should he be an adulterer? So and he said, פרנס מתגייר ציבור בחינם. Someone who is just administrator and he is arrogant over people for no reason. ושומרים אף מגרש לאשתו פעם ראשונה ושנייה ומחזירה. Someone who divorced his wife once, divorces his wife second time, meaning he brought her back and then he divorced her second time and then he returned her second time. I know a guy like that. Anyway, ותנא קמא, זימנה דכתובתה מרובה. תנא קמא said, you know what? That ketubah, sometimes it's so much money involved, so therefore that's the cause of that. Inamei יש לו בנים ממנה ולא מצא מגרש לה. Another option is that he has children with her and cannot divorce her, since he wants someone to care for them. So that's the reason that he stay with her. But for sure, that option to return the divorcee apply only when she's not married to someone else. Otherwise, cannot do that. חמישה דברים ציווה כנען את בניו. We're now just in the Torah portion, beginning of Bereshit, so it's applicable. So he said, so Canaan commanded his sons, אהבו זה את זה, love each other, ואהבו את הגזר. And also like to do what? Gezer. It's like, for the best translation, it's like robbery, and not trustworthy when it's money. ואהבו את הזימה, love promiscuity, which means adultery, ושנאו את אדוניכם, and hate your masters, ואל תדברו אמת, and do not speak true. So again, it's wondering. That's the trait that he have. The key is that feeling of znut. שישה דברים נאמרים בסוס. There are 6 things apply to a horse. אוהב את הזנות, אוהב את המלחמה, love adultery, love war, ורוחו גסה, he have arrogant spirit, ומואס את השינה, סוס don't like to sleep, that's the Gemarrah in Sukkah 26, ואוכל הרבה, יעיץ אלת, ומוציא קימה, take out little, ושומרים המפגש להרוג בעליו במלחמה. There are those who say that even the honor he wants to kill during the war. So in other words, he brings his honor to a place that is dangerous. 7 מנודים לשמיים, ואלו הם. יהודי שאין לו אישה, so one that he refused to marry, ושיש לו אישה ואין לו בנים, Tosfot said because of his fault that he married, they have no children, because of his control he doesn't want to. ומי שיש לו בנים ואין מגלם תלמוד תורה, if someone has sons is not raising them to Torah. ומי שאין לו תפילין בראשו, תפילין בזרועו, someone who's not carried תפילין, טלס תפילין, וציצית בבגדו, doesn't have the ציצית, מזוזה בפתחו, והמונע מילנים מרגלם, ושומרים אף מי שאין מסב לחבורה של מצווה. That would not sit with the group that do sudat mitzvah. Tosfot have to say on that, but running out of time. אמר רבא בר חנא אמר רבי שמואל בר מרתא אמר רב משום רבי יוסי איש עוצל, מנין ששואלים בחלדיים, not allowed to go to those psychic readers, שנאמר תמיד תהיה עם השם אלוקיך, you should be all-hearted, with the Lord your God. So it means that all of these psychic readings, etc. is forbidden. ומנין יודע בחברו שהוא גדול ממנו אפילו בדבר אחד. How do you know that if your fellow is bigger than you, even one thing, שחייב לנהוג בו כבוד, you need to give him the most honor. So שנאמר, the second book of Daniel, chapter 6, כל קבל, אירוח יתיר הרבה, ומלכה אשית לה כמות על כל מלכותה. So anyway, that even one thing, you have to give him an honor. That's the way that we study in pag-aaral chapter 6, and that's what Tosfot tells us. ויושבת אדם טהור אסורה לשמש, but any woman that delivers a baby, so there's a certain days, so if she passed after 40 days, her blood is like, even she doesn't see the blood is a potential. So that's the boundaries that the rabbis have. Ad kama, so Amarav onna. Rav said that it's either one day or meaning one day and night, so it means from the 41 day for the male and 81 day for the female. Tana, hu Yosef ish Osel, hu Yosef הבבלי, הוא איסי בן גור אריה, הוא איסי בן יהודה, הוא איסי בן גמליאל, הוא איסי בן מהללל, ובשמו איסי בן עקר ישמו. So simply speaking is the same fellow, just carry a different name. And there is those who say that because he ran away from the authority, it was at that time a decree, against study Torah, so he had many names. So when you check him, it's not this one, it's somebody else. הוא רבי יצחק בן טבלה, הוא רבי יצחק בן חקלה, הוא רבי יצחק בן אילאה. ק"ד עמוד א', הוא רבי יצחק בן אחא, דשמעתהו, that's the רבי יצחק בן אחא when you hear regular שמועה, רבי יצחק בן פנחס דאגדתהו, that's some אגדה, וסימנך, שימון האחי ברעי, or שימון האחי בעמי. So that's the acronym. Now we concluded with several advices. Number one, אמר רבא בברכה, אמר רבי יוחנן משמי דרבי יהודה בר אילאי, לאכול בצל ושב בצל, using בצל, eating onion, so it's meaning that it's not so expensive, meaning that it's already cooked onion, because people don't eat onion as is. ולא תאכול אווזים ותרנגולים, don't buy a duck and chicken, in that sense they're expensive. ויהיה לי ברח רודף עלייך. So you get used to eat expensive food, and then you need to sell your house in order to pay all this use to expensive food. פחות ממחלך ומשטר תוסיף על דירתך. To reduce from the expense of your food, and in the money you get, you add more to your dwelling place. Ki'at Ula, when Ula came from Babylon to Israel, Amar matla mitlin b'ma'arava. In Ma'arava they give a parable. The achil aliyata, if someone eats a fat meat all the time, tashe ba'aliyata, he hiding himself in that attic because he needs to buy in a credit, and then they ask him to pay and he have no money. So he said the achil kakule, if someone eats cheap vegetables, akik ledemata shachiv. He can sleep any place. You have no people, lender and creditors that go after him to collect. Shot nivleta beshuka. That's Shulchan Aruch Yoredea 255. One should avoid accepting charity as much as possible. It is better to live a life of sorrow than to rely on others. Even an important scholar who becomes impoverished should engage in a lowly trade rather than rely on charity. Also, המעיד בחברו יחידי. This is Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat 28. And is the Rama, one witness should testify against another person only with regard to a money claim through which is render the defendant liable to take an oath, or a situation where he can prevent his fellow from violating a prohibition. However, if the accused has already sinned, testified against him will only give him a bad reputation, and it's therefore prohibited. We talk about some cases that it's a mitzvah to hate a fellow. So that's Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat 272. If one sees another person about to violate a prohibition, and the other disregards his warning and transgresses, it is a mitzvah to hate him until he repents. Nevertheless, the witness is obligated to help the transgressor load and unloaded his animal, and we explained earlier not to hate total the person but specific trait on him. We talk about she'eino meseh b'seudat mitzvah, one who does not eat at the feast celebration a brit milah is basically ostracized by heaven, provided that there are decent people in attendance. That's Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah 265. And the last halacha is la sho'el lekaldiyim. That's important halacha. It's based on Shach, Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah 179. It is prohibited to consult astrologers. So in our times, it's like the psychic readers, etc. One who does so violates the Torah prohibition against witchcraft. As he states, you shall be wholehearted, tamim tiyeh, with your Lord your God, Deuteronomy 18. And the Vilna Gaon said that that's a very strong prohibition. There are some rabbis that allow one to consult these people on behalf of a sick person, but based on a statement of the Zohar, the Maharshal and the Beit Yosef prohibit consultation of this kind, even for a sick person. So in short, tamim tiyeh, we should be wholehearted with Lord your God, and teshuvah, tefillah, tzedakah can change any severe decree.